This is the Investor Connect podcast program. This is Hall T. Martin. I'm the host of the show, in which we interview angel investors, venture capital, private equity, family offices, and many other investor groups for startups and growth companies. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for joining us. Well, hello, this is Hall Martin with Investor Connect. Today we're here with Breanna Faye of Rloop. Breanna, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Hall. It's great to be here.
So what was your background before joining an early stage company, Rloop?
Before Rloop, I was actually working at a digital design agency, a pretty well-known one, called Code and Theory in New York. My background is kind of in design thinking, human-centered design, research and strategy. And I came out of MIT. I've been working with different agencies like IDEO and various startups. But I actually have a background as a trained architect. So I have my master's in built environment architecture. So I sort of straddle both digital and physical space design. It's a kind of an umbrella term as experience design, which kind of straddles UX, digital design, as well as interior architecture. So that's kind of my background. And I originally got interested in Rloop, and we sort of connected and bonded over the fact that it is a decentralized organization and you can utilize different skill sets in many different ways. They're working on futuristic transportation, technology design, and with a background in architecture and product design. It was kind of a good fit, especially for the direction that they were going with pertaining to blockchain.
And so what led you to join a company in the blockchain sector, or was that a conscious decision to choose that sector?
So it's interesting because Rloop has been around for 3 years now. We just hit the 3-year anniversary mark a couple weeks ago. So fundamentally, we're an engineering organization, and that's a hardware engineering. So Rloop is a decentralized crowdsourced engineering organization. They focus on building technology, mostly for futuristic transportation technologies. We're best known for our work developing tech for the Hyperloop. And we were involved in the Hyperloop competition launched by SpaceX back in 2015. So that's how we originated. It's kind of an interesting story. I definitely advise anybody who's interested in learning a little bit more to go check out our website. But that's how that organization formed. As the years progressed, the organization was essentially growing. So it's sort of this snowball effect of volunteers that come in and collaborate on these kind of very innovative, complex engineering projects. After a couple of years, we realized there was a bigger power than the actual Hyperloop technology that we were developing, which we won 3-4 international awards at that time for the tech that we had developed and the designs that we had done for the Hyperloop. But we realized that what was more powerful was this community that we had amassed, this sort of crowdsourced community, and the way we operated as a decentralized organization. So we actually have contributors from over 59 different countries. We have 1,300 different members right now. So the really cool thing was that people could work on any kind of projects outside of the Hyperloop as well. So we had people that were interested in cube satellites or sustainable energy mining. And basically, you were able to tap into this community of other passionate engineers or built environment enthusiasts and utilize that network to kind of work on these really cool projects. So that is essentially when that moment happened where we realized the power of this community happened, was when we realized that this is something bigger than just designing and engineering. We needed a way to kind of fundamentally structure this as an organization and kind of work in a way that would allow this organization to be self-sustaining and grow into the future. So blockchain came in because currently it's a totally decentralized organization, but everybody's volunteer. So what we want to do, and what we're actually already have in design and development, is a smart contract enabled platform, which basically allows for the immediate remuneration of people that contribute to the design and engineering work of these technologies and allow for that shared ownership. So that we're a very unique organization and startup within the blockchain space, because a lot of startups kind of recently started or have been working only identify as a blockchain company or organization, whereas we were operating for these entire 3 years without, apart from that. And this is now we have a team dedicated to the kind of product design development of this, and also kind of push towards our ITO.
So, on your journey through this company, it seems like you picked up a lot of best practices about how to start and run a blockchain company. What would you say is one of the best things you guys did in putting this one together?
Well, and again, it's kind of what makes our perspective a little unique is that we are a decentralized organization. This is not owned by six people that are working in a shared co-working space. We're totally remote. All our founding members or kind of original team members are the original 1,300 that basically have joined up until the point we launched our ICO. And everybody has an equal say. So we really are decentralized. And a key part of that is really transparency and open communication. Voting is really important for us in order who makes decisions and how do we proceed? How do we go to the next phase without overstepping? Everybody gets a voice in that kind of way. So that's a huge aspect of transparency is a huge aspect of our organization. And I think any decentralized organization, but we are unique in that way. So this is not owned by just a few people. And we want that to essentially continue to grow. So we want, as our organization grows, people to have and share in that ownership of the designs and development of the work and tech that's happening, as long as they're contributing, whether by work or by contribution in tokens.
So, most companies are moving to virtual based organizations. Not everybody's in the same place. How does one build culture when you're decentralized and you're remote from each other? What are the challenges in building that cohesion and that culture that so many companies look for?
That's a great question. And one thing I like to say with Rloop is that we've not come across any other organization quite like us. I mean, there are remote startups, there are virtual teams. One thing that makes us really unique, again, anybody can join. So it is crowdsourced. Every founding member basically can increase as long as people are continuing to join. But also the fact that we are a hardware organization. So we have this hurdle that we've actually already solved, which is how to go from digital design, which everything can be done remotely and in the computer, right? As long as you have an internet connection and a computer, you can be a part and contribute to the design and ideation process. But once you get into prototyping that in a physical space, that's a big hurdle to overcome. So one of the ways that we've done it, we've set up local hubs in select cities where we have makers. Now, the makers are not necessarily the designers. So what we do is we connect designers and engineers with local makers who are also, they're not people we hire out. They're actually volunteers and contributors within Rloop again. But they basically take designs and manufacture small parts. We break everything down into small manageable parts. And that allows us to go from that digital design and ideation space into physical prototyping, manufacturing, and built environment. So that's a really unique thing. And I guess in that way, it only pertains to if you have hardware or related organizations. But the unique thing is that it really does create a synergy, and it makes you figure out a way to go from kind of collaborating remotely all over the world and now talking to people who are in real space, in real time, and how to create like physicality within that. So that definitely creates a unique bond between our makers, which are our local makers, and our remote designers, engineers that are all over the world. That's definitely a big focus for us as we continue to grow in our roadmap in the next couple of years. We basically want to launch several other satellite hubs and maker spaces that the Rloop makers can basically build and manufacture and prototype things that the designers are creating. But it's a really nice handoff, and it creates this kind of beautiful synergy between digital and physical space and tangible and intangible. And that's kind of unique in our environment.
So how do you ensure that all the distributed pieces fit back together well, especially when you're working with physical hardware pieces? I've worked with physical hardware before, and there's just a lot of little things that have to happen before all the pieces fit together and work seamlessly. And if you decentralize it and distribute it like you have your technology, your organization is the same way. How do you make sure all the pieces fit back together and it works seamlessly?
Communication is a big key, a very strategic labeling system but mostly it's just breaking down complex projects. When you look at the whole project and you think, wow, the Hyperloop, that's insane. Like, how do you do that? How do you make something levitate that's 800 pounds? How do you make something fly at the speed of sound? When you say it like that, it seems unattainable and it seems kind of overwhelming. But when you break everything down into simple kind of tasks and bite-size level kind of achievements, it's really easy to kind of compartmentalize what needs to be done. And in terms of components and stuff fitting together, I mean, that we share programs. We have great sponsors and partnerships with organizations, companies like Autodesk. They're a sponsor of ours. Slack is a sponsor of ours and our partner of ours. And so that allows us to use these collaborative digital tools amongst our entire community. So at any point, any one of the 1,300 original members can log on and have access and shared files to our Autodesk Fusion files in 360. And that would allow an engineer who is in India to connect with a designer who's in Amsterdam or our makerspace in San Francisco. So communication is really key. One of the hardest parts is timing, because the amazing thing about this decentralized organization operating all across the globe is that we have people that come in, they log in and work whenever they can and whenever they want to, whenever it's convenient. So at any kind of hour of the day, we could have people handing off from one to the other. Somebody else picks it up and says, hey, I'm going to do this. So that is another reason why blockchain tech is important to us in terms of kind of creating this very hyper organized way to keep a logged and linear system of what tasks are done by who at what moment, what's that kind of level of contribution in terms of how do you measure that level of contribution within the community, and also what incentive is, how do we measure the incentive that gets paired with that task. So we talked about several different ways. It could be a bounty system, could also be by voting. But yeah, there's basically within the platform, there are ways to kind of create this measure, both of reputation, credibility, and contribution, but also of that remuneration in terms of what is the value of the work that was done.
Because you often hear about blockchain solving the supply chain issue or the fintech payment problem, but I haven't really heard anybody talk about it solving the software or the hardware development problem, where you're actually, seems like you're taking the project management tools and marrying with it compensation tools based on the value of what is actually getting done. Is that a big part of what you guys are doing, or is that just a side effect that came out?
So again, it wasn't like we didn't start Rloop years ago with the intent, with blockchain even in mind. But once, like about a year and a half ago, once we realized again that there's something more powerful about more than the 4 international awards that we've won for the Hyperloop and participating at SpaceX and kind of all the amazing things we've done, is that this community continues to grow and continues to want to work on not just the Hyperloop, but other projects as well. And we have a bunch of really enthusiastic people that basically now suddenly have access to work on highly complex, innovative, futuristic projects, that kind of the dream job projects that not everybody has access to. So one thing I like to say is that the power of Rloop is, for me, I jumped around from job to job, sort of I'm always looking for project first. Like, what's the most exciting project? That's where I want to work. That's what I want to do. And I went to do my master's at MIT, and there, you're kind of surrounded by this energy of the future and innovative projects, and always kind of getting a taste for what are the most innovative things that are happening today and tomorrow. And in the real world, it's kind of hard to find that. There are very few jobs or organizations that supply that opportunity. So for Rloop, basically, is this huge community of people that have access to be able to work on that. We even have one of our co-founders works at NASA. So a lot of Rloopers, they have day jobs, and then this is what they do in their spare time because they love to do it. But yeah, so back to your question, once we did realize the power of this community, it became a huge attention and focus to say we need instead of using the kind of the ensemble of digital tools that we do use now, we need something comprehensive, and that's kind of combines all of those things together, but also fills in a couple of missing links that we don't currently have access to, which is one, a smart contract system that allows for, again, that kind of system to be logged, but also for that contribution to be paid back. So that remuneration to pay that worker for the work that they've done in an immediate smart contract.
So in blockchain in general, you're using these tools every day. What are the trends you're seeing in the blockchain technology space and use space?
It's very broad these days. The most amazing thing about it is that it's kind of grown to be all over the map. You see everything from marketing to cybersecurity, you see education, you see it in real estate, smart contracts for things like wills and inheritances, automotive. So there's definitely a huge array of projects and future potentialities as well for blockchain to be kind of paired and partnered and support these industries or different startups within these industries. One, Rloop is kind of a unique one, again, being in the physical world engineering space and physical prototyping space. So we haven't seen a huge amount that have also been in that space, but it's also kind of IoT projects have a lot of overlap with us, public transportation or ride sharing. But yeah, there are definitely a lot of huge growing amount of startups in the space that are trying to use blockchain to solve different issues. And a lot of them have to do with that digital identity, smart contract system, peer-to-peer, immediate sharing of data or money. So it's kind of an infinite list, and it's growing every day.
Sounds great. Well, in the last minute we have here, what else should we cover that we haven't?
One thing we didn't talk about really was kind of this growing space of there are so many startups in the space. There are so many kind of new potential use cases of blockchain. And because of that, there's a huge amount of ICO, ITOs that are happening right now. So a lot of the questions we often hear is, how do you know what to invest in or how to approach it? And it really boils down to the overall kind of how blockchain started. It's if you believe in kind of the project, and if you believe in the technology, then that's where you should sort of follow your guidance and do your due diligence, of course. But there's so many players in the space, and yeah, we usually you always trust your intuition and go with things that you feel makes the most sense and you feel you can support and get behind that project and idea. So for us, it's really important for us as the community and the decentralized organization and decentralized ownership of our organization and of the technology that we produce. And that's something core to our values. So a lot of times it basically goes down to, do your values align? And that helps with sort of being able to navigate the space and trust and confide in who you wish.
Well, we appreciate you sharing this information with us today. And what's the best way for the audience to get back in touch with you?
Yeah, I would love to be in touch with anybody who wants to reach out and learn more about Rloop and the efforts that we're doing to develop the technology for the Hyperloop. We're also working on an interesting project called Flight, which is deemed the motorcycle of the sky. I mentioned a couple other projects. The digital physical thing that I mentioned about how we are creating these maker spaces is called we basically have like a smart factory system. It's called Bridge in planning. So I would love for anybody to go check out our website at rloop.org. And you can reach out to me via Twitter, where it's _Breanna Faye. And I'm sure you can link all that. You can also put my LinkedIn. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing back from some of you listeners, because definitely welcome any questions and anything in the blockchain space that you want to chat about. I'm all ears.
Great. Well, we'll put that in the show notes and hope to have you back for a follow-on, as it sounds fascinating, the use of the blockchain methodology also, not only to the technology, but also the organization and the communication structure you have there as well. Again, thank you so much for taking time to talk today.
Yeah, thank you, Hall. Really appreciate it.
Investor Connect helps investors interested in startup funding. In this podcast series, experienced investors share their experience and advice. You can learn more at investorconnect.org. Hall T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.